You're listening to From the Pink Seats podcast of the State of Louisville Podcast Network. Now, here's your hosts, Jacob Lane, Matt McGavick, and Vince Lococo.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back from the Pink Seats podcast. Jacob Lane, Vincent Lococo, Matt McGavick. You just heard that on the intro. But just a reminder, the gang is here. We are back talking football. Got some nice time off. You guys did a great job carrying the torch with G-Fed with the episode right after the season. It feels like football. We do this every year, but it feels like football was like an eternity ago that season ended. Like we're already in 2024. It is just crazy how quickly we Matt McGavick the season and close the book and turn that page all the way freaking over. From the Pink Seats podcast, presented by Frankfort Avenue Liquors and Wine, ladies and gentlemen, you are getting ready to stock the bar. That is what you are about to do. The holidays are here. It is a holiday edition of From the Pink Seats podcast. We're going to get into the Holiday Bowl, but when you stock the bar this holiday season, make sure you do it at Frankfort Avenue Liquors and Wine. Not only can you stop in and shop for wine, shop for liquor, shop for beer, get what you need at the liquor store, you can sit at the bar and order a drink as well. There are TVs. It is a great atmosphere, and it is home to the Christmas pop-up bar. You've got just a limited amount of time. Christmas is right around the corner, but this weekend, limited reservations. You can call them up by phone. Check the number in the bio or in the description of the show here. Whatever platform you're listening to, you can give them a shout. It is dope. We will be there this weekend. I cannot wait. Visit them on LouisvilleDrinks.com. Follow them on social media, all that. And, of course, State of Louisville Podcast Network powers this whole shebang here, Kern's Corner. We're thankful for the partnership with U of L Report, Matt McGavick. Matt, thank you for coming on the show. It's great to have you here. Be sure to follow him on all platforms. Follow the State of Louisville at the State of Lou. It's a great day. Glad to talk football, gentlemen. I've been real tired. Work has been a real pain in terms of the amount of time I have been pouring in. It's really funny. I'm sitting here today just exhausted, just like, how am I going to get to the end of this day? And this background pops up on my computer that I set like 2 years ago that says, nobody cares, work harder. And it is a constant reminder that my problems are insignificant when it comes to the reality of how great football is. So we're here. We're talking football. There's a lot to get into tonight. As I mentioned, we're going to talk about the Holiday Bowl. We're just a couple days away. I know it is basketball season, or so it should be. It is not really, but that is...
What's basketball?
That's right. Exactly. But the Holiday Bowl is just a few days away following Christmas against USC. So we'll dive into that game. And then, of course... today is, as we record this episode on Wednesday, December 20th, it is National Signing Day. A lot has gone down. Been a fairly productive, drama-free day for Louisville football. It's not the case for programs like Florida. Billy Napier, I'm sorry, man. It's not a good day. We've had better days. Yeah, I think we all have. Had Sadu, man. Do we know? Did you get any recruits?
I really have no idea. I have no clue, really follow Cincinnati like that.
They signed... I don't know. Looked about like 2 rows worth of you picture a graphic, a football graphic, about 2 rows worth of players, so probably about 12.
Okay. All right. That's great info there, man. That will really.
There's your Cincinnati football update.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, that is the lowercase e and expert when it comes to football, and Vincent Lococo talking recruiting. Well, hey, hold on. We got the big capital E expert, former Louisville football recruiting assistant Grant Mulligan is going to join the show, our good friend. He's going to give us the lowdown on what to expect with some of these guys, the big names in the class. Vince gives you the great information. What are you going to do with that? You're going to use that every day of the week. You're going to go and you're going to apply that. But Grant is going to bring you the football knowledge so that when you're talking football at the bar or at the dinner table this holiday season, or when you're watching the game, you could say, hey, Ransom McDermott. Let me tell you a little bit about Ransom McDermott. That's what we're going to do on the show tonight. That's right. And we'll talk about the portal because a lot is going on for Louisville as they build out this roster. Really, no sleep until the offseason. Already getting this roster turned around. when I say turned around, that makes it sound like there's a lot of overhaul, but really just upgrading and spots and starting to fill holes for a year that is starting to kind of look again like they could be a very competitive team. So we'll dive into all of that and much more on the show. We'll finish the predictions on the year, put a bow on all of that fun stuff. So stick around for all of that. But we'll first start with happy hour. Very quickly, we will go through some of our favorite non-Louisville football topics to start off the show with our friends from Mr. and Mrs. Bourbon. There is no better time to drink Mr. and Mrs. Bourbon because you can now buy it online. Instead of having to go to the store, you can't do that. If you would like to order it for a gift for somebody that you know, you can now order Mr. and Mrs. Bourbon via sealbox.com. We will share the link out. Check out our Twitter for that. And you can order 4 of those bottles there, just some of the best bourbon that you can get and drink for yourself or give as a gift this holiday season. So we'll start off as we drink to that with some fun football stuff here. And guys, one thing I learned this weekend is that you can be like you always hear this kind of this saying in football or basketball, like the player's coach or a hard ass like a Rick Pitino or a Bill Parcells. But I'm learning that there is this new mold of college of football coaches that are just dope people and guys who just do things the right way in every form or fashion. And that is exactly what we got with Mike McDaniel. So cheers to him for being the coolest coach in the NFL. I don't know if you all saw the clip that was from, I think it's from, what is it, their Hard Knocks season?
Mid-season the in-season, in-season Hard Knocks, yeah.
In-season Hard Knocks.
I'm much more of a fan of in-season Hard Knocks than I am preseason Hard Knocks because, I mean, it's cool watching a game on Sunday and seeing how the team, reacts, gets their ass ripped in a team meeting, like what we saw with McDaniel. Like, I love it.
Yeah, Hard Knocks has been some of my favorite football content for a long time. In fact, up until the last couple of years, like where streaming has really become like a kind of daily part of our lives and trying to get things like HBO is a little bit more challenging. I always made it a priority every year to find a new email address to do a free trial of HBO to watch Hard Knocks. Like every year. I was an expert at finding email addresses to keep my free trial going. So I love it. But what I loved about this clip in particular, and we'll try to share it out again from the Twitter account so that there's some context here. But what I love about this clip from Mike McDaniel is he's talking to his team following a game, is being able to stand in front of a group of 53 dudes knowing that you don't look like a football guy, right? You're 5'6", maybe 185 pounds soaking wet, probably less than that. You wear glasses, like you kind of look like a nerd. You do wear Yeezys, so you look cool. Yeah,
kind of looks like a hipster.
Yeah, it kind of right, exactly, right. Like for us, cool dude, but for football guys, like that's not the typical mold that they have for coaches. But what you see is this dude who just he just gets all of it, just from top to bottom. The way to address players, to hold them accountable, to hold himself accountable. That is a skill that a lot of us, including myself, struggle with. So he's standing in front of his team, owning to I really effed up right here in this play calling situation. Like that's me to my Madden squad after I've called the wrong third down. I'm like, guys, I really failed you here. This is a user error.
Oh, that's you. I blame the game. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's the difference between the two of us. You're like, damn, I knew the play. I knew exactly what to do. F this game. I'm like, come on, guys. I'm sorry. I really failed you throwing that go route on third and 4 when I should have just ran the HB draw. But no, I really find it refreshing to see a coach own it. Vince, have you ever had a coach like that that's this cool and kind of being able to get a message across, but also just be a very cool person?
I mean, I've had coaches like that for sure. Nick Carwell was awesome to be around. Pete Thomas was awesome to be around. Colby Smith under Coach Petrino, plenty of guys. I mean, in my opinion, this is how you have to be in the new age of college football. No longer are you players today laugh at how people used to do stuff and train in the 90s and stuff like that, where it's we did 3 2-a-days and lifted 6 times a day and ate rice and cornbread no, that's not productive. You beat your body down. It's not good for you in the long run. And half of y'all can't walk anyways. So it's in my opinion, this is how you do stuff. This is how you run your organization. Every coach needs to take a page out of, Mike McDaniel, Mike Tomlin, on how you treat your players and how you that's how you get the most out of your players. That's why Tua Tagovailoa went from can you really win ball games with Tua to like, they're only a couple pieces away from making some serious Super Bowl noise.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt that Mike McDaniel is actually a good coach too. Now,
right.
Granted, he's got Tua, Tyreek, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, Waddle, and bunch of other pieces.
Yeah,
man.
like
they've got a squad, but he's a good X's and O's guy too.
He is, right, and like that whole tree that he comes from has been built on being able to get the most out of the guys that you have, and we've seen that. Like Raheem Mostert, of course, is dynamic. I think leads the NFL in touchdowns, but he's played for what 3 or 4 different teams, been kind of like a third, like a part of a trio or part of a group of backs, has never been the guy. And then, obviously, A-Chain is a rookie, third, fourth rounder. That's not somebody that typically just walks in and is a star like we saw early in the season. I love Mike McDaniel. I think he's my favorite football coach, honestly. I would love for him to be like the coach of the Ravens maybe someday, or get Lamar in Miami. That probably would make all of us happy here. We could just meet in the middle there. So we'll see.
Lamar,
yeah.
Miami. My cheers this week has to go to Sean Stellato and the Louisville Fire legend. It came to my attention this week, boys, after listening to Pardon My Take, and somebody that follows me on Twitter, Mike Turner, tweeted out that he played for the Louisville Fire, and I had no clue. And it absolutely blew my mind.
So also, for the audience who doesn't know who that is, just give us a quick synopsis of who Sean Stellato is here.
Tommy DeVito's agent, the guy that's been making waves all over social media, the green suit, the fedora, he's in this past week, he got inducted into the
Italian Sports Hall of Fame, man.
Italian American Sports Hall of Fame. Had no clue that was the thing, but that is my life striving goal to be in that now.
Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, our show now has a purpose. We have a purpose.
Yes, we have a purpose now.
How do we get Vince Lococo on the ballot for this Hall of Fame? What do we do? We need to know. We need somebody to do the research and give us the game plan. This is a Hall of Fame that you should be a part of. Shout out to our guy here, and we should, again, Vince, we should retweet this picture out so that the audience can know what we're talking about.
Oh,
this is just what legends are made of, man.
Classic JT early 2000s frosted tips. I mean, the choker chain.
What brings this all together is if you go back to the last offseason interviewing Greg Brohm, Louisville's chief of staff, he talked about he was the offensive coordinator and the marketing manager. Managing a guy like this, man. This is who he's calling plays for. How about the world, man? It just has a way of working out in such a cool, fun football way. Cheers to that, man. I love like the shirt from Big Cat says, what was it? Not Italian, but a supporter.
I'm supportive, yeah.
But a supportive, man. I'm telling you, I am here for all of my Italian brothers and sisters.
I think part of the criteria is you have to like make homemade meatballs by hand and be able to quote like the Rocky quote about getting knocked down and getting back up in your speech. He was talking about his speech a little bit today, and I was like, oh my God, that sounds like every Italian American's like grandparents' story of like, oh, my grandpa came over from the boat, did this, that, the other. I'm like, it sounds like my yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm just here for Pauly D being the quarterback of the New York Giants. Like Tommy DeVito is Jersey Shore, but like to a T, man. It's just a match.
I'm all in on Tommy DeVito. I might need to get a jersey.
Shout out to Tommy DeVito.
Please get a jersey.
That is, we are a Tommy DeVito supportive podcast here, man. All right, last thing here on the happy hour before we roll into talking with Grant recruiting. I love this, guys. Like you all, I think we've all talked about. We're all 3 video game players. Like that's very active. I've been playing my Dynasty in 2K the last couple of weeks, man. I'm really getting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren. My boys are working, man. We are getting deep into playoff season. I'm about it. I am in it. I'm invested. I get the kids ready for bed. I get about 15 to 20 minutes a night, and we are going to work. We're getting a half game in at a time, and we're getting into the playoffs. But we are all video game players. We all love football video games, I would assume. Do we all play football games?
Okay. Oh, yeah. I'm halfway into the season with the Giants and Tommy DeVito as we speak.
I believe it. I totally believe it, man.
Somebody's got to win a Super Bowl for us Italians.
Yeah, and I did a fantasy draft for a franchise. I got the Colts, and I picked up Aaron Rodgers and yeah, I've already gotten some injuries on my team, so dealing with that right now. But we press
You're
onwards.
just living your
That's
dream
right,
with an
man.
actual quarterback. But
See,
continue.
exactly, man. That's the thing. This is what video games do for us. I become the star offensive coordinator, right? Matt is the GM of the team. Vince is out here being the Italian mafia, just hitman from the video
He's the bag
game.
man.
He is from the video game standpoint. But college football, the video game was a big. I love that game. Loved it so much. I had it every single year. It was in the rotation of games that I got annually. And it is coming back. The lawsuit, if you remember months ago, we covered on the show. The lawsuit was there to try to get these players paid more. And there was some questions whether this game was going to happen. That's been dismissed. This game is moving forward full force. We will get a game next summer. And we're talking about who's on the cover already. That's a debate that's happening. So cheers to college football video games and the debate we all need in our lives. In a time where there's so many political divisions and so many things that keep us from being one. And the debates get so nasty. This is the debate that will bring us all back to the dinner table to have fun and laugh, and that is who will be on the cover. Right now, folks are talking about Shedeur Sanders. I think that's really interesting to be the cover athlete. Would you guys agree that he's the face of college football right now? In a college football landscape where there's 300 teams, it's hard to have a face, but he has the highest NIL worth. He is the most notable. He has the most brand deals. He has the most pull. Yes, his father is Deion Sanders, and that does play a major role. Just like Bronny James's father is LeBron James.
And Arch Manning.
Arch Manning's dad is Cooper Manning, who we did see at Roosters this week. We're still on Arch Manning watch. But no, what? But what do we think?
If y'all had to pick one right now, who would y'all go with though?
It's Lamar Jackson.
I don't know if I would go. Oh,
well,
obviously.
no, for right now.
Yeah, if you had to pick a current,
Heisman.
would that just be a new Heisman thing of like, kind of like obviously like the Heisman House commercials where we just we'll just throw our latest winner in here and produce the latest commercial or.
I would think, like, for the sake of the game and the brand and the athletes, I would think that you have to go from that approach because Jaden Daniels is going to be an NFL draft pick here in a few months in April, right? So the Heisman approach, typically the Heisman always goes pro for the most part. There is your rare sophomore, but it's almost like you have to do what Madden does, what 2K does. You have to capitalize on who is the famous face of the brand or who is somebody you can make the face of the brand.
I don't want us to miss out on an opportunity where I know it didn't work out for him the year after this, but Tyrann Mathieu, the year he was in the Heisman contention was, I believe, his sophomore year when he had that big blowout year. And then if you all remember, he got arrested that following summer. But if he hadn't had that issue and we were in this kind of landscape, like he is the player, out that isn't a quarterback, that isn't an offensive player that would be primed to be like thrown on that cover and it's instantly selling thousands of copies just off of the swag and the stuff. Like basically you gotta have the look. That's why I think Shedeur has a decent argument. He has the watch, he's got the chain, you have to have the look.
Exactly, right. You got to be a cover athlete.
The picture of Tebow at Florida State with all the red paint on him when he's flexing and stuff, that's a cover picture.
But what I think they should really do, have regional covers. I
didn't even think about that. That'd be cool.
You say you're marketing to the North. Have JJ McCarthy or Kyle McCord on there. Well, before transfer. Well, he's going to Syracuse. Up north, no matter. But if it's
be real pissed whenever Lamar would be on the cover of the South.
Yeah. And then as SEC country have Jaden Daniels on there, or someone like that. Out west have either Bo Nix or Michael Penix. Something like that. Because this game's going to do numbers when it comes out. But this is just another way to even further market the game.
All I'm going to say is I'm not going to boycott the game, but I'm definitely going to buy it if there's no Lamar Jackson fantasy, or not fantasy, but the remember how they did the throwback Heisman stuff? If there's no playback with Lamar Jackson, I'm going to be very disappointed.
I think it's going to be really important for the growth of that game to obviously lean into the online play and being able to, have that same kind of feel that Madden does. The 2K, the way the 2K's world is built in the My Player game, they're going to need to be all of that. But I'm really excited for it. I think it's a really good brand building piece. I think they should put a current athlete on versus a former athlete. And I can't wait, man. I'm practicing. I'm getting ready. My concepts, my air raids, my West Coast.
You're going to run that
playbooks.
Scott Satterfield offense. It's going to be straight
Yeah,
outside
my
zone,
zone.
triple.
Yeah, my
You're going
outside
to line
zone,
up. I'm going to be
inside
like, I know
zone.
what
Let's
this is
go,
right
man.
here.
Let's
No,
go, baby.
I like the run and gun. Let's go.
Yeah, triple option, whatever it is, man. We're gonna be putting in the work on our film. I wish I would do anything to have my 2014 Denard Robinson game back. What I would do, I'd pay an insane amount of money if I wasn't
There
married
is a
with
good
kids.
that game is the only reason I still have my 360 plugged up. I haven't turned it on in a few months though, so I hope it's
Yeah,
not
my friend
bricked.
Jordan is
But
deep into
the only reason I haven't sold it or like just thrown it out is because I
Yeah,
still have
because
my game.
you were holding on hope that it would someday reinvent itself and hit the shelves again, and now we're gonna get that, but you can't get rid of that system until that happens for sure. It's gonna be a lot of 2014 games for sale a couple of weeks before 2024 comes out. So I mean, we can get a bargain and then have some tournaments and do whatever. But no, I'm excited for it. And that leads us perfectly into our next segment, and we'll bring Grant Mulligan on to the show. Again, I mentioned former Louisville football recruiting assistant, somebody who I really value the opinion of from a football film and just analysis standpoint. We're going to walk through some of the big names to know in the class for Louisville, who signed, thankfully who flipped, who didn't flip. Not a lot to really discuss there, as well as dive into the transfer portal and what you can kind of expect from this class, man. It's really exciting to see 16 commits for Louisville already. The next wave of Flyville, we're already there. It's insane. It really is still like I have to kind of like pinch myself that we've already gone through a full year of Jeff Brohm. We've already gone to an ACC title as a fan base and as a team. Like this is just the beginning of years of sustained success, and it's just like still like holy shit. Like I have to remember what this is like from so many years ago. It's fun. I like it.
I still wish we would change from Flyville to something else. I don't know. I just don't like Flyville that much.
Yeah,
I liked how it was year to year. How I don't know. I think maybe that was a Trino thing where it was a yearly cycle. I don't know. Maybe it was just I don't know. I thought it was creative. You say that, Matt. You give me a yeah, shrug your shoulders.
It was nice, but I like
Jacob's marketing mind over there is already spinning 3 different ways to concept 25 into a one word saying.
Yeah. Just anything better than freaking whatever it was in 2018, Fast City or whatever the hell they
Speed City.
Yeah, Fast City. My gosh, man.
Yeah. With the team media guy with fucking Justify in the middle.
That's a great story.
Flip art right there.
Yeah. If you're not a long time listener, that's a great story. Go back and listen to the episode with Lottie Stockwell about 2 years ago. Great Bobby Petrino story there. So we'll go ahead. We'll transition to a break. And on the other side, we'll bring in Grant. We'll sit down. We'll talk recruiting. We'll talk transfer portal. And then dive into the Holiday Bowl and what's next for Louisville football. Do not go anywhere. Shout out Kern's Corner. Shout out Frankfort Avenue Liquors and Wine. We will be right back on the other side. From the Pink Seats podcast is brought to you by the fine folks at Frankfort Avenue Liquor and Wine. You can find them at 2115 Frankfort Avenue, right next to the Manhattan Project. Full bar service and a full liquor store. Stop in there today and tell them From the Pink Seats podcast sent you. We do this once a year, twice a year. I've lost track of how the recruiting cycle goes. The portal, as we know, never sleeps.
Like one and a half.
1.5 times a year, we get to talk signing day, fax machines, and we have no better person to bring on the show than everyone's favorite fax machine guru. You know everything about the fax machine, and that is Grant Mulligan, former Louisville football recruiting assistant. Grant, I was going to say the other name, but I don't want to do that. You can do that if you want to. But welcome into the show.
It's funny you say fax machines because like everything I learned about how to fix a printer and to do with the printer, I learned from Philip Hicks and the Louisville football staff. So
see, the printers and fax machines still matter when it comes to recruiting. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Oh, it still does. Nobody uses more paper than a football office. I tell you that. But that's a great. That's my first line of the show. What's going on, guys? Grant Mulligan, State of Louisville football recruiting analyst, former student recruiting assistant for the University of Louisville football program. It's great to be back. I'm ready to talk recruits. I
Who
live it.
needs
I breathe
me,
it.
man? I'm done. I'm just gonna get out of here. Grant's got this, man. Look at him coming in
Man,
here with the
He's hyped.
I didn't
yeah,
want
man.
to. I didn't want to
Mid-season
just.
form, man. I'm here
Yeah.
for it.
Grant
I
never.
didn't want to just come in and let printer talk be my whole thing. Whenever I came straight in, I had to
Talk.
let
I
him
love
know.
it, man.
Hey, I'm the printer guy. I sit by the printer.
We could do a little bit of all of that. But hey,
All right.
this is a very important day for Louisville football. This day is just kind of like an overall landscape of college football is really interesting because it doesn't feel like it has the same oomph that it did when I was maybe in high school or in college, where I remember watching, whether it was watching just on Twitter and watching the feed or really like watching, player commitments on ESPN, all of that stuff. Like it used to be so much fun to follow the flips. There were some great flips during the Satterfield era. The Devon Warner one is the one that comes to mind. Some not so great flips. Chuba Purdy late in
Oh, that
the
one
game there,
sucks.
yeah. But it's always fun on signing day. For the last couple of years, we've joked about the highs and lows of signing day, but I do enjoy talking about the high school commits and now signees and really kind of where they fall in line. Obviously, the first year, but really down the road. And Grant, again, great person to talk to. You've been out of the game a couple of classes now, right? I mean, when
It's
was the last
sad, but yeah.
class? When was the last class you scouted? Do you remember?
The last class I had full involvement in was 2022. The last class I had evals written for was in 2023.
Wow, man.
But when Brewer left, I don't know if anyone kept any of my evals anyways. It's not like anybody listened to them when I was there anyways. So yeah.
Somewhere in the archives, those exist, those notes. I would pay money for those notes,
But I
man. Those are
haven't
golden. That's what we
I should have saved a bunch of I should start reading them all. I know who a lot of my like sleeper guys were that blew up big, so I could keep receipts. But I should have kept my evals
I
because
remember
I wish I
when
could look back on that now. But don't let that lead you into a false sense of security thinking I'm not still watching tape. I'm still here. I'm still watching tape.
always
Even though I'm
watching
not
tape.
in the business
Always
anymore,
around the film.
I'm always running film. So
Well,
do you have your own clicker by now? Like your own little
then
fast forward
I
slow
need
motion
to.
button thing?
I need to, but one thing I will never forget is to never leave my cursor on the film screen, and that's something that's so deeply ingrained in me that that was a Brewer thing.
that's a
Like
nice
Brewer,
tip, man. That's a very nice tip.
he get upset at me if I left if we're about to watch tape and I left the cursor in the middle of the screen, like in the way of tape, he would get mad.
Well, yeah, it makes sense because I get pissed when people do that. Say we're streaming like a fight or something like that, and somebody leaves the
I
mouse
understand. I
screen
get it.
like
I'm
right
not
in the middle
saying
of this. I'm staring at it the entire time until it moves.
yeah. I'm not saying I'm not saying he's
I'm doing it
wrong.
right
I'm
now.
just
Actually,
saying
it's on Matt's head. It's bothering me.
Shiny. I know.
I
All right.
block the glare, man. I say
That's
as
a
a fellow baldy.
The two of you all on my screen are like a top and bottom here, and it is just a lot of bald going on. I love it, man. This is just great. This is great. The
Radiate.
bald content we all needed. Well, let's talk a little bit about what Louisville did in the transfer portal. But we'll start with national letters of intent. 14 of them for the Cardinals today, and it's always really interesting to see kind of what a coach does in his first full class. Obviously. Jeff Brohm walked into a really nice situation last year with some of those guys like Pierce Clarkson, like Julio McClain, Jamari Johnson, and Madden Saker. Some of those guys ultimately he kind of battled for down to the very end, but won some recruiting battles and had some that just kind of fell into his lap already being committed to Louisville. So this really his first full class. And it took a little bit to get going. At the start, there were some nice big additions. You obviously had TJ Capers reclassify up a year, but Grant, let's talk a little bit about this class top to bottom. What are your thoughts on where Brohm shakes out year one with his recruiting class and getting all these guys signed?
So very impressively, we only lost one commitment in the lead up. Lost Cole McConaughey to Miami, which we more or less saw coming. I wish him the best. I actually think he was a bit of an underrated player. I think he could have seen some snaps probably later in his career. But of course, wish him the best. Obviously, he felt he had a better opportunity there. But I think it's remarkable that Brohm has been able to hold commitments both in last year as well. I mean, he was fighting an uphill battle in a class where none of the guys were his recruits on the lead up, and he kept a remarkable amount together. And we see again, he seems to have a great knack for retaining commitments. So I think that that's something that hopefully we see continue. But if that's something that's actually a hallmark of his recruiting game, that's a great skill to have. They could really use that down in Gainesville, Florida right now, because clearly they don't have a coach who can do that. But I would hesitate, shifting gears a little bit. I would hesitate in calling this his first full class. It is in terms of time in which he's been here, but all signs have pointed, and all intel that I received is that the first full high school class that they're going to turn full attention to is going to be the 25. The
25,
expectation has been for the lead up that this year and the previous year were going to be very heavy portal years. And of course, with the success that we've seen with the portal so far, he may want to continue that momentum. But I would look for a more complete, higher take rate, larger quantity of recruits. With all the information that I've been told, everything that I've heard is that the 2025 class is really where he's going to start putting heavy emphasis on high school recruiting.
Yeah, I think that's really solid. I like what they've done because there was enough pieces left behind to build around and compete pretty quickly. I don't know if a lot of people agreed with that going into last season, and maybe they were kind of proven otherwise. But I did feel like the cupboard certainly wasn't as empty as it was back when Satterfield took over in 2018. I mean, they weren't left the weapon of Vince LeCoco. So I mean, you know, it's not it's hard to compare. But I do think this class, you know, really shook out in a way that's an impactful high school class. I mean, I know again it's only 14 guys that signed, 15 total commits. And before 247 Sports pulled their national rankings down, Louisville had 5 guys ranked in the top 500. I mean, that's a really nice class for Louisville, no matter who's the head coach. I mean, we've seen years where that's, you know, they haven't gotten anywhere near close to that. So you see them, you know, bring in some big names, kind of led by JoJo Stone, who was a late commit, one of the latest in the class, the wide receiver from LSU, I think is where he had been committed
LSU,
3 years.
yeah,
I mean, that's a big time flip.
Yeah, he had been committed to LSU for damn near over a year, and I guess LSU kind of cooled on him / like he was kind of wanting to see where they wanted to go elsewhere because I think LSU was kind of looking at some other targets in the class, which I mean, I don't want to say he peaked in his sophomore year, but I do think his film from his sophomore year was probably a little bit better. But I mean, he's still a really good playmaker. I mean, when I was watching film during that sophomore and junior year, I mean, like as a playmaker with the ball in his hand, like he's explosive. He just has to continue to develop to become a more like complete receiver. Which I mean, if you're going to have anyone trying to develop an offensive skill position player, I think maybe outside of Ohio State, like you'd like it to be Jeff Brohm and Company.
Yeah, Louisville is loaded up on receivers again. They've got 4 in the class between the portal and the high school ranks. So, and they already have a lot of guys who are coming back, or at least it appears so, who were part of that class last year. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do there. Quarterback, obviously, that's a big focus of a coach's class because that really is, you know, what you're building around, or at least one of the big pieces you're trying to fill. We've talked about Deuce Adams in the past when we've had you on and done recruiting. The intangibles look like they're all there. I mean, the guy's got great size. You know, he's not necessarily an NFL 6'3", 6'4", but plays 6'1", 170, so 175, going to be able to grow into that body a little bit, and plays this fun style of football. What do you think about him and what Louisville's getting, and him kind of being the future behind Pierce?
I got to be honest. I really like Deuce whenever he committed initially, and I think that he got better throughout his senior year as well. I've seen a really good, steady improvement from him throughout his career. He shows me a lot of things to like. I don't think he's a superstar in terms of physical talent. I mean, he has requisite tools. He has the right size. He has good mobility. I mean, he come in immediately, be one of the more mobile quarterbacks in the room. But I think the style of football that he plays with is really what Brohm and company are looking for. He feels very much to the effect of a point guard type. He's a really good distributor. He has a good placement of the ball. He has a good feel for when receivers are going to be coming open. I don't think he's a game breaker with a rocket launcher cannon arm, but I think in terms of fit and plus adding some tools to maybe improve upon what quarterbacks have been in the past in the Brohm offense, I'm not surprised at all that this is the direction that they went. I think really high of him as a player. Last time I evaluated him, I said a lot of the similar things, but I think he got, I mean, the maturity in his game. I think he got better with his decision making. Um, I like him. I think he was a great quarterback take this year, and I think that he fits really well within this offense with what he brings to the table.
Yeah, and I know in the media availability earlier this afternoon, Coach Brohm talked about the state of Texas and going in there and being able to grab a player out of there, and that's a big feat when you're able to do that. And he really did kind of allude to them continuing to, go after guys that they like, regardless of what state they're in. I find that to be kind of an interesting strategy rather than saying we got to go all in on these states. And there's still the pipeline kind of philosophy and thing that the states that you really feel comfortable with. But we've seen Louisville in the past 2 years go to California, to Texas to get quarterbacks. I mean, that's kind of not what they've done in the past.
We just need to go to Iowa and get some offensive linemen.
Yeah,
like there's some really good, or Nebraska. There's definitely
Wisconsin, man.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, Noblesville, Indiana. How about that, man? That's a Big Ten offensive lineman hometown right there for you. Well, let me ask you this: who is we kind of talk high level, but who are the kind of big names, the guys that you really expect to like pop out of this class? And Matt, I'll throw the same question to you after great answers.
Obviously, people are gonna, like we already talked about, people are gonna be really excited about Deuce Adams. People are gonna be really excited about JoJo Stone, and no slight to them whatsoever. I think they're both gonna be really impactful guys. But when I think about best player in this class, I'm thinking about Dylan Messman. I'm thinking about the tight end, 4-star tight end out of Michigan. I really like his game. He's very well rounded. He blocks. He can play in line. You can flex him out, little slot receiver. He doesn't have what I feel to be. He doesn't have one elite trait, but I think he has an extremely balanced game. I think that he can fill a great numerous roles for this offense, whether it be blocking, whether it be receiving. I think he's great in the contested catch situations, so he can make a lot of different plays. I feel looking at the other guys that we already have in the room, I can see an excellent complementary two tight end set with Jamari Johnson, who is heralded as a great athletic receiving threat, to Messman, who's a more traditional from a body type and from a game standpoint. Honorable mention, I also want to say a guy who's a holdover from a previous commitment, who I really like his game, is Isaac Brown. So just on the higher end of the commitments, I think the two of them could both make a heavy impact early in their career.
JoJo Stone, yeah, he's a great guy. I've already mentioned that. I think he's a phenomenal talent with the ball in his hands and has great run after catch ability. But I think another guy who maybe has potential to see the field in year one, but it kind of depends on how the running back room shakes out and basically if Louisville gets Jalen Lucas, is someone that I'm really high on is Duke Watson. I mean, when you take a guy who is from the state of Georgia and he rushes for nearly 2,000 yards in a season, it's pretty good. I remember kind of watching his film. When you kind of look at some of his measurables, you think, okay, 6 foot, 180, it's probably a speed back. But I mean, he is incredibly physical, and his instincts are what really jumped out to me, just because he knew exactly how to diagnose the play as it's unfolding. He knew like what holes to attack. He took near perfect angles, no matter where he was running on the field, whether it was outside stretch, inside zone, doesn't matter. He knew the exact way to attack, kind of beat leverage points on the edge or just kind of beat gaps in the middle. And that's someone with how we've seen Jeff Brohm evolve as a play caller and evolve, like, I guess, in his offensive identity to incorporate the run a lot more. I mean, as good as Isaac Brown is, and Isaac Brown is probably more of that all-purpose back mold where he can be used as out of the backfield, as a returner, as a slot back, what have you. But I think in terms of just pure rushing ability, I think Duke Watson I wouldn't be shocked if 2-3 years from now we'd be talking about someone who's like a star running back in the ACC.
Yeah, it still remains to be seen how, obviously how freshmen will develop under Jeff Brohm and really who's going to kind of emerge to be the first player that's the big development. And there's still a lot of guys that from this class this past year who could see the field this year, including a guy like Pierce Clarkson. And it makes things really interesting to throw some of these guys into the mix too. I mean, there's definitely no step back in talent. And you see that in a lot of these positions, whether it be wide receiver, whether it be running back. Obviously, we finally see Jeff Brohm get his guy at tight end. I think he could be an NFL quality tight end, but it's going to be really interesting to see now, again, with the portal. It's almost like you reload your starter and your backup every year, and these young guys that you used to have as depth kind of fade each year, and you're really just replacing them. So I'm really curious to kind of see how this plays out. Grant, we've seen plenty of guys come through the Louisville program over the years that have been, 3 stars, 2 stars, JUCO guys who come from a Liberty or come from a different program that really don't have much expectation, and they've become stars. Yaya Diaby is a guy that comes to mind as of late, a guy that you all, of course, were around during his time. But who in this class is a player to watch, maybe that's not at the top of the class, maybe isn't somebody that, when a headline name is thrown out there, it's not their name, but somebody that in 3-4 years could end up being a star on this team?
I absolutely have an answer for this one.
I knew you would, man. That's it.
Yeah.
Look at this. This
I
guy
really hope you don't take
understands.
the same answer as me because I have a feeling you will.
I'm saying your answer right now. This is Matt McGavick's answer. And it's going to be the cornerback from Westlake, Georgia, Atlanta, Ramon
Actually,
Mosby.
not my answer.
It was not your answer. Great. Excellent.
No.
You don't see the vision on that one like me. It's okay, bro. I'm just playing. I think he's a great player. He's one of the favorite commits of one of the guys me and Vince both used to work with. Shout out Ryan Fleming. Loves the guy. But he has the physical tools. He plays in a difficult area. I think that he has been improving on a very steady track as he comes up. Given the current state of the cornerback room, I think that you're going to have an opportunity for guys to learn from some great talent, but also step in some depth pieces early. I would not be surprised at all to see Mosby be a number 1, number 2 corner within just a few years. I really like his game. I love the physicality he plays with. I think that he can really fill perhaps a Jarvis Brownlee type role for this defense. Player I really like, really under the radar. I was really surprised to not see his ratings see an increase throughout his senior year, but a player I really like. I think we will see him on the field sooner rather than later.
Someone that I think has some real potential once he gets a little bit of an adjustment period to college is offensive tackle Ransom McDermott. I mean, first of all, he's 6'7" and 300 pounds. I mean, if you want like a premier blindside blocker, you're gonna need size. And I mean, they don't get much bigger than 6'7", 300. I mean, that's like an NFL caliber blindside blocker in terms of just size. And the only reason I say acclamation is because when at Noblesville, they ran this really kind of odd offense where a lot of the offensive linemen lined up in 4-point stances. It was kind of weird, but in times,
yeah, they're getting cooked.
In times where he lined up like a traditional tackle would, he looked really damn good. He held his ground. He didn't show that he let guys by him very easily. Now, granted, it's been a while since I've actually watched the film on him, so I'm going back through my evals on him. But from what I saw, just kind of reading by it, he's got some very real potential. I don't know if he'll be a contributor year one, but I think by the time his sophomore season rolls around, he could very well be in the mix for probably starting tackle, whether that be right or left.
Yeah, and again, they've got a number of those guys in the class. Fred Johnson, Jimmy Williams, bring in these guys with some interesting intangibles that can sit and develop. And ultimately, hopefully, kind of take over and lead the way down the road. Switching over to guys who don't necessarily need time to develop coming in from the transfer portal. Louisville has been on fire the last couple of weeks. They already have 16 commitments from the portal. They have filled just about every need that has existed on the roster over the course of about 2 weeks. I mean, it's really interesting when you think of. Yeah, hey, a quarterback too, I guess, while you're at it at this point. But what's really interesting is the way that college football schedule is kind of shakes out is that the offseason kicks off before the year is over. And typically you don't see roster turnover happen until the year is over. Like imagine the NCAA tournament in basketball happening and guys are just like, nah, I'm out. I'm going to hit the portal now, get my offseason started early. Like it's just no other sporting league that I can think of as the offseason begin in the season. But here we are before Louisville even takes the field for their postseason or season finale. Their last game was less than a month ago, and they've already grabbed 16 players who will make up the core of their football team next year. A lot to be excited about. Like, just if I read you these schools, like this should get you excited. Alabama, Miami, Ohio State, North Carolina. Louisville has gone. They have gotten guys from big name blue blood programs. There's guys from Harvard who are smarter than all of us. There are guys from small schools that are local, like from a Louisville school, I should say, from Eastern Illinois. There's guys from Yale. There's guys from Northern Illinois. There's guys from San Diego State, Central Florida. There's really a little bit of everything in this transfer portal class. And I'm really interested to learn more about each of these players and see kind of how they step in and what roles they fill. But man, there is so much to be excited about. And guys, I'll open up to all of us here. What is the most kind of sexy addition that they made in the portal so far? Because there's really probably 4 or 5 guys that you could point to, and you're like, okay, yeah, he's like the star next year at his position.
I gotta go with Thor. Well, center too, but I mean, Thor, like this guy legitimately probably could have declared for the NFL now. But this is a guy who obviously like wants to like get his opportunity to perform at the Power 5 level to show to scouts like, hey, I did this in Harvard, I did well, but this is what I can do with an uptick in competition. And like when you can move as well as he can, and what did he have, like 45 reps of 225 recently?
500 like max bench too.
There are like all-pro NFL defensive linemen who can't do that right now. And he's doing that in college, and he's moving like a speed rusher. Like I don't know what his 3-cone time was off the top of my head, but I remember seeing a tweet from State of Louisville saying that like he had a shuttle time that rivaled the top time in the combine this past year, while he would have maxed out on the reps. Like having a guy who is that physical and that athletically gifted and that productive. Oh, man, the defensive line is going to be scary next season if it all comes together.
It really has the potential to be like the focal point of the entire team. I mean, the fact that Ashton Gelati comes back, you bring back Mason Reiger, you get almost literally all of your interior linemen back. Plus you bring in some of the guys that we talked about, including a Thor Griffith. I mean, good luck trying to block them. Grant, what about you, man? What gets you going here from the transfer portal additions?
I got so many guys on offense that I'm really, really excited about. I'm just going to bring up 2 in particular, and I'm going to throw in an honorable mention. I'm going to say honorable mention to my man Colin Lacey. I think he is going to be a baller. Definitely could fill a sort of Jamari Thrash-like role, guy moving from lower level to competition to higher level competition. Really productive player. But I got to go first with a player who was one of my favorite watches in high school, who I absolutely loved his tape in high school, and that's Ja'Cory Brooks. If you would have told me whenever he was being recruited the first time around that Ja'Cory Brooks was going to be a Louisville Cardinal, I would be psyched out of my mind. And I'm slightly less psyched out of my mind as I would then, but I'm still pretty excited with the talent that he has, and I still think he has a lot of untapped potential, a lot of physical tools, Yeah, he's 6'2", 195. He gives us some size on the outside, but he's not just a jump ball guy. He's got legitimate speed. He's got a lot of ability that he brings to this offense. I think he's a really, really, really talented player. I cannot wait to see how he's deployed. And the second one being the tight end from San Diego State, Mark Redmond. I think he is going to be the best tight end we've seen at Louisville in a little while now. I think he is great, not just from a receiving standpoint and what he could do in the pass game, but he's a legitimate, sizable, difficult to move force in the run game. So I think adding that element and not having to do as much cycling through guys to try to find somebody that works and having someone who could be your number one go-to option at tight end. And then, why not add two more guys behind him while you're at it, I guess. But those are the two I'm most excited about on offense. I think Ja'Cory Brooks is a stud. Loved his high school film. Cannot wait to see what he does in this offense. And love also to get a legitimate star tight end.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you, we spent a lot of time this year talking about what the offense potentially could be with a tight end that kind of fits at least a little bit more what Jeff Brohm did at Purdue. And we saw Nate Krisky try to become that late in the season. They really kind of got the most that they could out of that. But bringing in a Mark Redmond, it really gives them this weapon in between the numbers and even outside the numbers to move the chains, to be a security blanket, to really open things up for Tyler Shuck or Pierce Clarkson or Brady Allen or whoever is playing quarterback for this team. I mean, it gives just really a lot of security and comfortability as a quarterback, and you want that. What also will do that is bringing in two offensive linemen who presumably will protect your left side and your right side, who are going to be 6'9" and 6'6", 308 and 315 respectively. We'll see where they shake out between Jonathan Mendoza coming over from Yale and Monroe Mills coming over from Texas Tech. But the offensive line, fellas, assuming Michael Gonzalez comes back, assuming Renato Brown comes back healthy, Austin Collins comes back healthy, there's another offensive lineman, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but the interior offensive lineman from Western Michigan, these guys are giving them just a lot of brute up front, just a lot of manpower to be able to run the football and to be able to pass protect. I mean, look, you just kind of mentioned it with the size and what it means to have some of that on the outside of the offensive line. Think about the Philadelphia Eagles. Think about a guy like Lane Johnson. I mean, just being 6'5", 6'6". Even Mekhi Becton, the right tackle who we all love with the Jets, the guy that you guys know very well. I mean, that's the kind of size that you want. And Jonathan Mendoza probably going to play right tackle, maybe right guard. Who knows? They might play a little bit of both. There's just so many options that they have because of the transfer portal and what they did at the offensive line. I love it, man. All right, let's get out of here. Last thing we'll talk about is the quarterback position, Grant. I'm curious to get your thoughts. Jack Plummer is out of here after the game that we are getting ready to talk about on the show, the Holiday Bowl. And the future will kind of look a little bit different, but maybe not so much. This year, it's just a seventh-year senior that'll be competing at the starting quarterback spot in Tyler Shuck. But what do you think with Pierce Clarkson, Tyler Shuck, Brady Allen, these guys? What does Jeff Brohm do there, and what do you kind of see game one when Louisville rolls the ball out?
I would be largely surprised for it not to be Shuck. It just seems like that's the direction we want to go. And he's a guy who has, when healthy, been really productive and an impressive player. The thing that gives me the most pause is that we largely don't know what he looks like over an entire body of work throughout a season. And that's a hard thing to evaluate a quarterback with, because in a season full of ups and downs and turbulence and road games, home games, I would like to see what an entire season's worth of production looks like. And he's been injured the last 3 years. Luckily, they've not been soft tissue injuries, so they should, in theory, be less limiting on what his game could be, less likely for re-injury risk. Like I said, as of right now, I'm gonna have to see what happens over the spring. I'm gonna have to see what happens as the offseason progresses. I would be really surprised to not see Tyler Shuck out there to start, but hot take maybe just from some things that I've heard. Brady Allen had really start to come along near the end of the season or as the season progressed. Obviously, we know that he's a legitimate Brohm recruit, had him at Purdue. They have a great relationship with him. He has the physical tools that Brohm and co are looking for. I would not be shocked. This is a strange quarterback battle because I would not be shocked to see any of the three guys in order. If I was picking today, I would probably think it'd be Shuck, Brady Allen, and then Pierce. Being most surprised if Pierce starts and least surprised if Shuck starts.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So Tyler Shuck's the quarterback in your mind. What does that mean for the ceiling for Louisville football? Is this an ACC championship caliber team in year two? Do you think they get better? Are they the same? Do they take a step back? What does that look like with him as the quarterback?
I think it improves our verticality. I like his arm strength a lot better. One of my critiques that I had about Jack Plummer was that the ball lacked velocity a lot of the time whenever it came off of his hands, and he held it too long. Also, Shuck is a little more mobile, so you have that element as well. That's not something that we've largely seen a lot within the Brohm offense so far, but it's always nice to have somebody who can actually get out, extend plays, whenever they draw up those occasional options or design runs, you have somebody who could probably be a little more effective in those situations. From purely quarterback play standpoint, based on the talent, I would say we're taking a step forward. I'm going to have to see how the rest of the offense shakes out. Obviously, losing such a dynamic player like Jawar Jordan is going to be a big blow. Losing Garendo as well. You lose your main 1-2 punch, and you're going in with a bit of an unknown to the running back room, and you're restocking with some new receivers. So I would think that they have similar potential, if not higher potential, offensively speaking, going into this next season. But it's one of those things where you have to see how they gel whenever they come together because it's going to be quite a few new pieces on this offense. So I have faith. I think we could make it back to the ACC title game based off the talent. I don't see on paper a large step back here. I see potential for growth, but we're going to have to see how they play together.
What would you grade? Last question here. What would you grade this run right here? These what I say 14 signees and 16 transfers, the 30 guys coming in so far. What's the grade you give Jeff Brohm and Company for the offseason?
I'm gonna go B plus. Okay. I really like the direction we're going. The only reason I go lower like that, I think we still have more to do in the portal. I don't think they're done. I think that we haven't seen the end of it yet. It's hard to grade the high school class knowing that it was going to be a smaller class. So, judging or counting it against them that they only got 14 guys is not something that I'm going to do. But I don't, there's not, if we had kept TJ Capers, I think I would bump the high school class up. If we had kept him in this class, obviously he's on the team. But if we kept him in this class, I would feel higher about it. But I'm just not wowed by the high school class, which again, we knew coming into it, this was going to be a smaller one. There was just lower potential to do so. So I'm going to keep it as a B plus. I love what we're doing in the portal. I want to go and get Jalen Lucas, add another playmaker. And I would also like to hopefully see some more corner additions. I know we've already got 2, but that's a position group that may deal with some attrition again. So B plus overall. I think it very easily can turn into an A minus into an A, but that remains to be seen.
But look here, man, I'm giving you an A plus. What a great appearance on the show. We can't thank you enough, man. We got to get you out of here, though, man. We got to get you back to your life so you can get some rest to get prepared for your day job because you're out there grinding, man. We know you put in the work. You're not even just watching the film. You're watching the film on life. So, Grant, we thank you, sir, for jumping on the show. We've missed you. We hope to see you more often. Ladies and gentlemen, you can check Grant out. If you want more Grant, which who doesn't want more Grant? I think we all wake up saying more Grant, more Grant, more Grant. Locked On Louisville podcast with Dalton Pence. He's on there a couple times a month. So shout out to Dalton. Shout out to Grant. Grant, we appreciate it, brother. Go about your life. Go do what you do, man, and we will talk soon.
Great to talk to y'all, boys. Thank you very much for having me on. Go Cards.
As always, I am currently sipping on some Mr. and Mrs. Bourbon. Mr. and Mrs., as you might know, is the official brand of Louisville legend Russ Smith. But what you might not know is that Mr. and Mrs. is becoming a national and global brand, shaking things up in the bourbon industry. Like basketball, bourbon has long been a passion for Russ, dating back to his college days. He studied and learned under some of the more renowned master distillers in the area. Mr. and Mrs. is more than a passion project. It's the culmination of a decade of painstaking work. Mr. and Mrs. is for everyone, from a more traditional 90 proof to a cask strength that's smooth. Be among the first to try Mr. and Mrs., the official bourbon of the state of Louisville, and from the Pink Seats podcast. On shelves anywhere you find your liquors or online at mrandmrsbourbon.com. All the marbles, except for the marbles, are like kind of like broken, and we're like got pieces from other games. Like
it's more like playing chess with like a couple chess pieces and some toy army soldiers.
Yeah, exactly. That is the equivalent of what the Holiday Bowl is for Louisville football in USC. I was talking to a friend the other day, and they were asking, you know, I forget what it was, but how I got on the subject of if I had money, what would I be doing right now? And I would be boarding a plane moments after my kids open their holiday gifts on their Christmas gifts on Christmas Day to go out west to San Diego, so I could go to the San Diego Zoo, so I could go and hit the beaches on the West Coast and go to watch the Holiday Bowl. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case this year. I will be watching from home, as I imagine most Louisville fans are. But hey, I am extremely excited to have another game of football to watch. I think I don't know if I've ever admitted this on the show. When I watch games that are away games or not at home, I chart every play, and I like to take very detailed notes, and I really enjoy that. Like, it's not going to the games and being with the fellas, but it is like, in a way, like I'm like kind of really nerdy, and I can walk back to my laptop and type my little notes out, and then back in my living room.
There are college coaches that would find you so freaking useful, Jacob, in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout the game, right, there's always a guy in the press box. This was Seth Price for us at Louisville whenever Sat and them were there, that, as you know, Sat is saying the play, we have to have a way of charting the play and figuring out, so whenever we go back and tag the film, right?
Yeah, right. Like what happened, right.
Oh yeah, you would be
I'm so good at it, bro.
You need to apply for that. I know a guy who's got a guy, and I'll get you in contact with other guys, and we'll get it.
I am getting so damn good at guessing how many yards a player got without the announcer telling me. It's a skill, man. Look, I've been watching. Awesome. Yeah, see, exactly. Look, you get it, man.
You should go do like high school announcing or something like that. Go rejoin your alma mater, Eastern, and be the voice of the Eastern Eagles or something.
That's right, man.
He would kill it.
I would kill it. That's right. Well, hey, we just talked, some recruiting, and we didn't really get into this, but shout out Trinity High School. Were we about to be on the verge of the first season without a Trinity High School player in ages? Like, if not for Blake Ruffin, who comes to the program,
we had one last year.
Excuse me,
Stephen Herron.
Yes, we did.
Stephen Herron, yeah.
But he was the only one, Vince, and he wasn't going to be on the team this year. There's no other Lococos. There's no Tronzos. There's no any other player from Trinity. We were going to be a Trinity-less team, Vince.
We've got 3 Hall of Famers on staff, so that counts for something.
True. Okay, so maybe we make up for it that way. Yeah. But nobody on the field. But now we get Blake Ruffin out of Eastern Illinois, and I'm pumped. I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it. I love some Trinity grads. We got an Eastern player. We got a Trinity player. Maybe we'll get Jalen Carter a year of eligibility. Matt, get a manual guy on the roster. Let's go.
Just get the best ones around here. I know Matt likes to talk about it all the time, how it's not the biggest breeding ground of college athletics. I
was about to say, don't make me get on my tangent again. Because goddamn it, I will.
You have to agree with me. Get the ones that are
get the ones that are
productive.
Good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You gotta, don't let no reason a guy like JJ Weaver should be playing down the street in blue. My 2 cents. But
that's right. But hey, we got Sean Boykin. Shout out Grant, man. Grant's my dude.
Oh, yeah, I love Sean Boykin. You know who he played for back in the day? Rico Hughes, Future Stars.
There you go. Rico, a man of the state. That's a man getting seats.
Send him our way.
We're slowly starting to turn the tables here. And it's only a matter of time before Mark Stoops is the head coach of Iowa, and this battle becomes less of a conversation because the big dog probably comes to Louisville or goes to Iowa, and People aren't going to Iowa from Louisville.
There's no way the big dog comes to Louisville. There's no way.
We'll see. We'll see.
I will say on air, you hear me right now. I'll Venmo both of you all $5 if Stoops leaves to go to Iowa and the big dog comes to the Bill.
Do I get $5 for both?
Yeah, but both I will have to Venmo $10 total, $5.
Okay, all right.
Because there's no way that meatball hit comes over here.
Okay, well, here we go. Let's hop in the DeLorean. A couple of weeks back, Louisville football season that was on such a high note, heading into its first ever ACC championship appearance, heading into the opportunity to win 11 games, the opportunity to be ACC champions, obviously not make a playoff at this point because of the loss to Kentucky the week prior, but ultimately have one of the best seasons in school history. And they fall short of that, 16-6. Jack Plummer throws for just 111 yards. They couldn't do anything offensively. Injuries everywhere. Jawar Jordan, we now know, battling some pretty severe injuries throughout the year. Not the same team. Defensively, they have a hell of a game. Their best game of the year, potentially, but just not enough to win. And since then, Louisville has had some guys who have said, I am not going to play in the bowl game, going to head off and start my professional career. That is Jamari Thrash and Jawar Jordan, two guys that Louisville obviously leaned on heavily this year. So this team is going to look a little bit different heading into a game against USC, who is also going to look different. But Louisville kind of got a black eye, and USC their face is missing. It's that the difference is not the difference is not the same when you look at what USC is going to have to deal with in this one. But nonetheless, look. Lincoln Riley, still the head coach at USC, still a premier name brand college football program, still an opportunity to go out into the West Coast, place where you've been recruiting and planting some flags and seeds, hoping to produce fertile grounds, and you get a chance to potentially beat the top dog out there. That's a big deal. So there's a lot to really be excited about. And the storylines really it feels like it was months ago that Louisville football played, but there is a lot that really stands out in this one. And again, I mentioned USC looking different, just to kind of set the playing field here of what we're talking about. Starting quarterback, likely number 1 NFL pick, Caleb Williams, not playing in this game. Starting running back, leading rusher, not playing. Marshawn Lloyd will not play in this game, already declared for the NFL draft. Brendan Rice, the leader in touchdowns on this team with 12 receiving touchdowns, second leading receiver in yards, opting for the NFL draft, will not play in this touchdown. And then star safety Kalen Bullock, who has not yet officially announced, but it is appeared by all means, will not play in the game next week. Star safety likely to be a top pick in the first 3 rounds of this draft, of the draft of 2024, not playing. So all that and a ton of transfer portal. Malachi Nelson, who is a 5-star quarterback, portal. Tackett Curtis, one of their star linebackers, portal. Dejon Benton, one of the most productive defensive linemen, portal. So they look a little bit different. Louisville doesn't look that much different, but still missing their stars. So let's start with this. What's the offense look like here? Because is it pound the ball with Isaac and Maurice Turner, maybe a little Kewan Brown in there since we're not losing a game or any eligibility? Do we start to sling the ball? Because you have Chris Bell, you have Amari Huggins-Bruce, you have Kevin Coleman, you have Nate Kariski, you have Joey Gatewood, you got Josh Lipson. Do we spread the ball around, become a pass-heavy offense against a poopy defense? What do we do here? What do we think, guys? What's the game plan offensively for this Louisville team?
I honestly don't think the game plan is going to be too terribly different from what we've seen in the second half of the season. And I say that because, during the second half of the year, Louisville has already experienced what it's like to not have either Jaws or Jamari at their disposal because of injuries. Jaws, after that hamstring injury, clearly was not the same player. And now we know that on top of the hamstring, he was dealing with a knee injury. So he wasn't nearly as efficient as he was. So they kind of had to lean on Isaac a lot more in that running back room and kind of get a little more creative on that front. And then with Jamari, it was a little bit of the same. And he actually missed a game in that second half of the season after he had surgery on his wrist. and they kind of had to rely on some other guys in that receiver room. It wasn't nearly as successful as having to rely on Isaac as the backup in the running back room, but there were moments where guys like Chris Bell, guys like Kevin Coleman, Amari, they had pockets of moments throughout that second half, whereas Isaac kind of, took it off and went. So I think it's going to probably be a more so a run first type approach, just because we've already seen that Isaac Grindo's been on tear for the last few games ever since Jaws has kind of been, I don't want to say out of the mix, but he hasn't been the Jaws that we saw in the first half of the season. And as far as like the passing attack goes, I mean, still try and spread the ball out as much as you can, just because, I mean, since you're not going to have your go-to guy who's going to catch most things you throw his way, and they've already started to do that the last few weeks. I know I can't remember like which games they did it, but there were a handful of games in the second half of the season where they tossed it to 9, 10, 11, 12 different receivers. When you look at the final box score, and there's not one guy that dominated all the touches or the targets or reception or whatnot. So I honestly, even with the loss of Jawar and Jamari for this game, I don't think the game plan is going to be that different, to be honest with you.
No, and what, they have the benefit of going into it with the majority of their team intact. I think that's what makes this team really interesting, right? Like, even if Ashton was going to go pro, which we now know that he is not, there was nobody on this team who you look at and you said, okay, maybe outside of Jawar and Jamari Thrash because of injuries, they're going to sit out, right? And Louisville only has, at this point, suffered a very small percentage of deflection on their team from guys who have hit the portal. They have 9 transfers at this point and only 2 guys who are really serious contributors. So the majority of this team is intact, looking to put the bow on us this season, whereas USC is without their defensive coordinator, without their starting quarterback, without their star transfer, or star 5-star quarterback who probably would have at least played in this game, wouldn't have been the starter. And then a number of depth guys, key position guys.
And you know what else, Jacob? I think also to take into account, sorry to cut you off, is I wouldn't be surprised if Cliff Kingsbury's interviewing for jobs as we speak and could potentially have a job within the next however many days. You know what I mean? And they can be without him.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So this game is just really interesting in that regard. As far as, what I think and what I kind of expect with this team is, one, they can rush the passer. They've got very talented edge rushers. They've got defensive linemen that are productive. They are not a team, though, that can really stop big plays. They don't really have the ability to kind of build momentum. And what Louisville does best this season is keep drives alive. And that is with run, play action pass, third down option, come back and do it all over again. Do, whatever the case is, score 3, score 7. I think Louisville has the chance to really, will come in with just such a sound game plan with their guys doing what they did all season long versus USC trying to piecemeal it together to get through one more game. And because of that, I think that we could see Louisville dominate, I'm not saying they're going to come in here and blow them out, but I could see Louisville in a situation where they control this football game from start to finish. And by the end of it, you just are really kind of like last year against Cincinnati, like just applauding how they carried themselves and how they really kind of put together a full effort in a game where there's just a lot going on in college football off the field. That's just the way that it is in this day and age. Storylines that I'm really interested in watching is Jack Plummer, though. Obviously, Florida State was not his best performance, really up and down to finish the season. Obviously you can, we've talked a lot about why they didn't make a move or should they have made a move and what that looked like for the team and, kind of what we expect with USC. And you guys both said that it would be more likely that a blowout takes place to get 2 quarterbacks on the field, more so than 2 guys being actively involved in the game plan. But I'm still at the point where I know, in years past, whether it's Satterfield, whether it's Strong, weird things happen in bowl games. Weird things happen on senior day. I envision this being a game where they come into a very unique strategy, very unique concepts, and we see 2 quarterbacks, and I'm excited about that. But I also think we're going to see a very crisp Jack Plummer, a guy who's on his P's and Q's. Maybe we see a misplay here or there, but I expect 250 plus passing, comfortability in the pocket, being able to get his guys going. Yes, he's missing Jamari Thrash, but he's got the weapons around him to be productive. What do you guys think in terms of what you get out of Jack Plummer?
I think this could be his best game of the year. I mean, a Pac-12 defense is something that he has seen before. It is something he's definitely very familiar with off of last year at Cal. I think I know, right after the game, if you would have asked me how I felt, I'd be like, oh man, I don't know. Definitely two quarterback system. But having time to like settle my thoughts and really think about it, I don't think I'm gonna have to disagree with you again, Jacob. I don't think that we'll see two quarterbacks at all unless it's gonna be a blowout.
Yeah.
I think Jack. I mean, I agree with you. I think it's gonna be 200 plus. I'm even saying low threes. I could see him throwing in the low threes with it being a bowl game. Like you said, crazy things happen in bowl games on senior day. I mean, think about Devontae Pete scoring a touchdown in the 2019 Music City.
Right.
Like that is something you never would have thought of, or stuff like that. TJ Hull having a great game that game as well. Like it's crazy stuff like that happens in bowl games, especially with him being out west on the West Coast and seeing a Pac-12 defense, for a full season already. I think he put up some numbers.
And to kind of back up your point, Vince, like let me read you a Jack Plummer's stat line from the 2022 season when he was at Cal against USC. 35 for 49, so that's a completion rate of 71.4, which is good. And he threw for a crisp 406 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception for a QB rating of 157.2. So, yeah, I'd say he had some success against USC's defense.
How much are our fans bitching about that one interception if he puts up those numbers?
Oh, especially if it's within the red zone.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We win like 44-10, and they're like, that one pick, man. Like, if that's not the Jack Plummer experience.
Yeah, but look, if you're Jack Plummer and you want any chance of football career after this game, which, it's really hard to play professional football at the quarterback position because only one guy can play at a time. There's only so many on a roster, but
it's a lot easier now though with the XFL, Jacob, and like the other avenues. He could definitely be a first round XFL draft pick and make at least a decent living doing that.
Yeah, right, exactly. But my point being is he is going to go up against Miller Moss, who is the backup for USC, has very limited experience, and what you can't have happen if you're Jack Plummer is you walk out of this game and Miller Moss has outperformed you. That didn't necessarily happen with Brock Glenn, but Brock Glenn walked away with a W. And so he, in that form or in that fashion, is victorious over Jack Plummer. In this game, if you're Jack, like it is your final game, you have to make this all worth it to make this season, really kind of hit the peak of what it can be. And to do that, you have to outduel the other quarterback, and that is a guy who is stepping into his first career start. For a team that's reeling, a team that has only won one game in the last 2 months, a team that is giving up an insane amount of points per game, a team that has just a ton of turnover already, 16 guys in the portal. They've already, missing several key starters, as I alluded to earlier. But still, for USC, like the last storyline here, the kind of big thing is when you look at them and you say, okay, they're missing a lot of guys. Who do they have? What are they? They are a team that does have some talented pieces. A guy in Austin Jones, who was the second leading rusher on this team, and a guy that Louisville fans would be glad to have. 417 yards, 9 touchdowns, will lead the charge as their rushing leader. And Taj Washington was their leading receiver overall, nearly 1,000-yard receiver, looking to kind of put the bow on his season and become an NFL guy. Deuce Robinson, another name that Louisville fans might know from the recruiting class last year, another star wide receiver for USC, and will be stepping into a much bigger role, but he's going to obviously play a factor. And then some defensive pieces, Solomon Byrd, Bear Alexander on the defensive line, Jalen Smith, a safety. They also will have, somewhere between 3 to 4 of their starting offensive linemen playing. Most of their defensive line, linebackers, cornerbacks will go. So they are also going to have some continuity, but they are a team that has struggled, really lacking confidence. Not sure how you get that much confidence in this period of time, but again, bowl games, anything can happen. You know, Air Force Louisville a couple of years ago is a great example of that. We've seen bowl games not go Louisville's way. You don't come prepared. You're there not for business, but for pleasure, and you're talking about a different outcome on the way out. And so I think for Louisville, there's obviously you want to win this game, right? That's the big thing. But defensively, I think you want to carry momentum into 2024 because you have the chance to have a top defense in the country pass rushing. I mean, they could be number one in sacks again in 2024 or in 2024 with Ashton and Mason, plus the combination of guys they have back, plus Thor Griffith, plus, you know, whatever the case is. But you continue this momentum. You have a strong game. You shut down that USC offense. And then offensively, you let, you know, this is going to sound silly when I say it, but you let Jack Plummer ride off into the sunset. You know what I mean? Like, you know, he's Joe Namath in the Holiday Bowl, not in the Super Bowl, but in the
I'm
Holiday
picturing
Bowl.
him riding off on a horse and looking back at us with his cowboy hat and giving us some little.
I just like picture, you know, the Joe Namath moment where he's riding through the tunnel and the finger is waving and that's just Jack Plummer with that stash being equally as thick as it was.
Pats the heart.
Right.
And there's nobody cheering for him. It's just
hey, I'll be cheering, man.
No, like in person. Sorry, that sounds awful, but like he's just moving in slow.
Physically at the game because nobody traveled to
San Diego. Exactly right. Because no one's going to San Diego, right? But yet this moment looks just so cool because it's the camera's capturing in slow motion and he's just waving. It's his moment. But that's what that's what I want to see. And I don't know. Maybe I'm a homer, but I feel really confident that Louisville is going to dominate this one.
Chris Taylor Yamanoa has this picture with Lamar Jackson walking off the field in the Mississippi State Bowl. Whenever we played Mississippi State in 2017, Lamar's last game, it looks like him and Lamar Bowl, It looks like they're best. No, it's the text layer. It looks like they're best friends because his arms wrapped around. It's like we've been through so much.
See,
man.
that's the
that's what.
Yeah, that's the picture. Yeah, that's exactly right, man.
I'm with you though, man. I'm very confident with this game, with how poor USC's defense has been all year. If you would have told me at the beginning of the year that we'd be playing USC in the Holiday Bowl, I'd be like, what happened this year? Because one, USC was supposed to be this national powerhouse playing in the playoffs right now. And two, what happened for us to get into the Holiday Bowl? So like that'd be where I'm kind of at. So I'm confident with this. I love the matchups. I'm very confident with Jack coming in, especially after Matt giving me those great numbers against USC last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jack only has better weapons around him now and, a shittier USC defense. So,
yeah, right. And if Louisville can't score in this game, there's some questions about why. Like, realistically, we're walking away from this game saying, why could you not score? Because I'm going to read you these scores, and you're going to say, well, yeah, Louisville should have no problem, right? Even in some of the wins this season, USC gave up 28 points to San Jose State. USC gave up 28 points to Arizona State, gave up 41 points to Colorado, gave up 41 points to Arizona, gave up 49 points to California. In losses, gave up 48 to Notre Dame, 34 to Utah, 52 to Washington, 36 to Oregon. So this is a game where minimum Louisville should score at least 4 or 5 touchdowns. And what they have going for them is, again, yes, Jamari Thrash not playing in this game, but when you have a club on your hand, you're about as talented as me catching the football. And that's not your choice.
Well, do you think about Jalen Smith in the bowl game in 2017 having to catch the ball with one hand and palming the ball, and that later leading to turnovers and fumbles and stuff like that? So it's not really ideal, and is the smartest decision for both him and Jaws' draft stock. Which
exactly right. No one's going to blame him. But what Louisville's had to do this season is get Nate Koreski, Kevin Coleman, Joey Gatewood, Chris Bell, other guys involved. So there's going to be that comfortability, Amari Huggins-Bruce, with just spreading the ball out to guys that you've already been throwing to. And so with that, I think Louisville has the edge. We're going to see, of course, guaranteed trick play. My hot take, somebody else throws a touchdown in this game that's not Jack Plummer. Joey Gatewood
touchdown.
Joey Gatewood.
Hey. Evan Conley jump pass on the goal line. Let's do it.
If we get that this game, I'm going to be so pissed because we should have been running that 5 games before.
Yeah, in the Florida State game, when you're on the goal line and you're like, come on, just do something to try to get them into the end zone. Yeah, but this is a game Louisville should have no problem scoring the football. You do want to see them, though, defensively tackle Austin Jones. Make sure you take care of business there. Look, Taj Washington, Zachariah Branch, Deuce Robinson, and Mario Williams are all very talented receivers. Between them, they have 10 touchdowns overall, or 11 touchdowns. Dorian Singer gives them 14 touchdowns. That's still a very talented group. Miller Moss was a very talented kid coming out of high school. And so there is the ability for USC to get it going. So it's going to be very important to rush the passer, take advantage of an injured offensive lineman that will be without one of their best, most likely in this game. Get Ashton Gelati going, get Mason going, get Stephen Herron a West Coast sack, man. That's another Pac-12 guy out there. Send him out in style. I'm really expecting to see a Music City like kind of atmosphere in 2019 where they use this game. And you really see, that's not a great example of using it for positive momentum. Maybe Cincinnati last year is a better example, but COVID, right? I mean, hey, you probably didn't.
I was thinking the flirtation with South Carolina. That's
true. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. But you hope to see them kind of come out there, and the camaraderie in this game stands out, and you see these guys play for one another and for a special season. And again, it's not what you wanted it to be. Overall, you didn't win the ACC championship, but winning the Holiday Bowl and carrying that momentum over into next year when you have a pretty strong schedule and the opportunity to come out ranked to start and really have that momentum. It's important that they put the stamp on this game. So I'll be watching for that. Dominate, physical. Like, I get it's a vacation out west, but let's come out. Let's just own the point of attack, dominate the line of scrimmage, run the football, get Isaac Gariendo going, throw some trick plays in there, but still do what you have to do. Don't get overcomplicated with it. And then defensively, Quincy Riley, Jarvis Brownlee, Cam Kelly, Devin Neal, TJ Quinn, take care of business. Ashton Gelati, Mason, get the sacks. Let's go out there. Continue that momentum that we saw in the Florida State game and handle business here. And that leads us into predictions where Vince, buddy, man, you had a good lead here for a little while. And unfortunately now you've fallen into last place. We move into the final week of the season with predictions. We're trying to figure out who's going to win this. So we've got more predictions for more points to see if maybe we can get a tie to be eliminated here. But we go into this with Matt, myself, and Presley all tied at 13 after we predicted Florida State to win over Louisville in the ACC championship. Vince, no one will ever mistake you for label you for not being a Louisville fan. You picked
that
the good
game
guys.
Is complete BS. Nobody in our fan base could have predicted our offense to come out there and play that freaking poorly.
That's fine. Yeah,
that little points that we should have won that game. That was complete bullshit. I'm not hearing anything.
I totally hear you. So
shit. Yeah,
tonight,
it's not like the Ole Miss game. Whenever my first episode, whenever I'm out here pulling scores out of my butt.
That's fair. I'll give you that. So tonight we'll predict score, first touchdown score, leading receiver with Jamari Thrash out, and we will lead off with Press here. He is going Louisville 49, USC 38. So not much of a defensive performance for Louisville, according to him. First TD is Nate Kuriski, and his leading receiver is Amari Huggins-Bruce. So it's really funny how we all do this every episode. I see the score sheet here. I love that. For me, I'm going 35-20. I think, as I mentioned, Louisville will have no problem to score here. I'm going to go Isaac Guriendo is the first scorer, and Kevin Coleman is the leading receiver for Louisville football. I think he will have 100 yards in this game. A little hot take for you there. No one asked for that, but there's that little nugget for you. So what we got, Matt? And we'll come to you next.
I'm going to go 42-28. I know that they're going to be missing Caleb Williams, Marshawn Lloyd, Brennan Rice. And Mario Williams, he's actually not going to be playing either. He entered the portal. Either entered the portal or declared. I can't remember, but he's not going to play. I mean, Lincoln Riley is still like a really creative offensive mind. There's still plenty of talent. But that defense is fucking terrible. And it's only going to get worse with all the talent that they're starting to hemorrhage from the portal. So USC's defense is one of those teams. When I was just kind of looking at their stats, like they've had a whole bunch of guys who statistically had good individual seasons, but when you put it all together, it's just terrible. So I think Louisville's going to be able to move the ball like pretty freely in this one. They'll probably give up some points just because that's who Lincoln Riley is as a coach. So I'm going to go 42-28 Louisville, and I'm just going to say Presley stole my thunder because I also have Nate Kuriski as the first touchdown scorer. and Amari Huggins Bruce as the leading receivers, just because AHB's got involved in pockets the last few games. Like, he's had moments shine through, and I think in a game where Thrash is not going to play, this could be his opportunity to shine.
I should make one of you all pick a different receiver or first touchdown score theoretically. I'll let it stand. I really don't have time for this. Vince, what do you got?
Last one of the year, fellas. I mean,
yes, it's sad, man. I'm
sad.
so sad about
When football season's over and like Saturdays, there's just something special about waking up that first Saturday of football season. You walk outside, you go get your breakfast sandwich or coffee, you come back and turn College Game Day on, and it's like, we're starting a journey. And to finally end it on this, man, it's been a good year. I'm gonna go 48-21. Good guys. With my first touchdown scorer being finally Chris Bell. Just because we haven't hit on that one yet.
No.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That seems like a running joke all year long. Right. Like, you pick Chris Bell. Probably not happening.
Oh, even better. Leading receiver, Jack Plummer. Oh my, no, I'm kidding. It'll be I'm on the Kevin Coleman train with you, Jacob. I think for whatever reason in my gut, I was trying to find a way to throw it in there. In my gut, I feel Kevin Coleman is going to have a good game.
Yeah, I do too. That's weird. We must
have
missed a lot of opportunities. Sandwich.
Yeah, right. He's missed a lot of opportunities with like drop passes, stuff right off his fingertips. You're like, oh man, that's just it's a big play right there, kicking the balls. And I think he'll make those plays and propel himself into a good 2024. So
yeah, and that's what it's all about at this point. This game is a glorified exhibition game, but the momentum into the polls, obviously, it's the preseason polls are only what they are, but early positioning, and if you win, you're only going to go up. So that matters in this game. You make an impression on the voters in next season. Well, means a lot for where you get voted.
Like whenever we lost in 2016, Jacob, like all we talk about now is Lamar won the Heisman that year, and we lost the last 3 games of the season.
Yeah,
that's all you talk about, and that's the narrative you have to write right now with this game. Is like you dropped UK, you dropped Florida State. Are we going to drop the bowl game now too, and we're going to leave with this sour taste in our mouth, or are we going to, finish with a good year?
We will find out December 27th, just 1 week away from the finale for Louisville football. As I mentioned, I'm very sad, but we will keep you covered through the offseason as we always do here on the first and only Louisville-specific podcast from the Pink Seats podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It's been a great episode. Big shout out to our friend Grant Mulligan. Shout out to Matt. Shout out to Vince. Shout out to Presley. Shout out to everyone for listening. I can't encourage you enough to subscribe anywhere you get your shows from. Follow us on Twitter at Pink Seats Pod, at the State of Blue, at U of L Report. And we will catch you in just a couple of days after a bowl game, hopefully with a W, as we head off into the official start of the offseason and recap what we just watched for 15 weeks out of our lives. And I can't wait. Hopefully we got a W sitting on the plate on Christmas, or right after Christmas, heading into New Year's. So until then, Jacob Lane, Matt McGavick, Vincent Lococo signing off. Go Cards.